Still currently majority of the AI initiatives fail, more than 70% as per McKinsey and a number of other companies. The reason for that, or one of the reasons for that, is that they don't attach the ROI, or they don't anticipate what should be the return on investment. So they're kind of operating for me a bit in the dark. From my perspective, each initiative, whether that's AI initiative, data analytics initiative, it should have an ROI attached. Don't try to solve the problems yourselves. Try to engage the professionals. Try to speak with the experts. If you get the external expertise, if you try to build the AI use cases that are based on commercial aspects and ROI, and you tackle some of the basics like fundamentals of data quality and legacy infrastructure, then everything is going to be fine. We're all going to adopt it eventually.
Hi Bart, how are you?
I'm great, thank you, Margot.
So thank you so much for accepting my invitation.
Pleasure.
Today we're gonna talk about AI in banking, because you have a very long experience in banking, especially here in the UAE. So we'll dive directly into the contents. But can you tell me, in order to start, what was your focus during your years in banking and at HSBC specifically?
So I think initially the focus was very CDAO driven, so focusing on data management and governance, but very quickly it turned into a commercial angle, and we started focusing on the ROI and generating leads, focusing on the new to bank leads, cross-selling initiatives, omni-channel experience, so more on the customer experience side. And I think it worked really well because, you know, banks in the end are the institutions that are supposed to generate money, not to be risk and compliance driven.
So yeah, because we didn't say it, but you were, I mean, your last role before, so now you're an entrepreneur, but you were the CDAO, so Chief Data Analytics Officer for HSBC here. How long have you been working in banking in total?
So I've been with HSBC and in banking for 13 years.
Yeah.
And I've been the CDAO since 2018.
Okay. Oh wow! And so so you left 2 years ago, right?
Yes.
Okay. So in your years at HSBC and as a CDAO, AI was already in the picture, obviously. Maybe not Gen AI, but AI in general. So I wanted to ask you about the key AI use cases that you think can be very impactful in the banking area. If you have examples of things that you set up or that are actually impactful in general, according to you.
Yeah. So I think at the time when I was there, the Gen AI was already raising in terms of the hype.
Yeah.
And HSBC, despite being such a big global organization, was quite forward thinking in terms of the adoption. And they were already using those tools, and we were working on some very advanced use cases. Some of the examples are the fraud detection tool. So we've built the first AI fraud detection tool that was focusing on a number of red flags that was giving the propensity of the clients committing fraud. I think this is one of the better or bigger achievements, and one of those that shows how progressive thinking the bank was. That's one of the use cases. The other use case that was in the making when I was still there was the kind of knowledge management system side, where it was focusing on policies and procedures, DIMs and FIMs, so desktop instruction manuals and functional instruction manuals. As you can imagine, the companies of this size usually have hundreds of thousands of pages of different policies.
Yeah, especially in this field. Yeah.
Correct. Heavily regulated, right? So, for example, for a new joiner, it's much easier to come and ask ChatGPT or another tool, which is an LLM-based tool, which has been trained on such documents, to ask, for instance, what does the ABC anti-bribery and corruption policy say about accepting gifts, for instance, above $50? And then it would respond, as per the ABC policy 321, you should log it in this and that system and get a separate approval, for instance, right? So I think this was a great real-life application out of many. But there are many more, I think, that are more impactful than those that I mentioned.
Yeah, and more actually coming.
Correct.
Yeah, because we were talking about this a bit offline. You talked about ROI, and the challenge today that we hear a lot is people are like, okay, we talk a lot about AI in all industries. Obviously, there is a topic, it's a no-brainer, but how can you make sure? Do you think they are actually already? I know the answer is yes, but you will explain us why. There are already use cases in banking that are already showing value, that are measurable. You see what I mean? Because there are a lot of companies starting to do AI for doing AI. How do you, did you actually set up, these ones that you mentioned? Were they actually showing impact, or was it too early to say? Did you make sure that it was actually bringing some return on investments?
So the answer is yes and yes.
Yeah, I hope.
And I guess There are two parts to that question, or the way I would like to structure the answer. First one is currently majority of the AI initiatives fail.
Yeah.
More than 70% as per McKinsey and a number of other companies. The reason for that, or one of the reasons for that, is that they don't attach the ROI, or they don't anticipate what should be the return on investment. So they're kind of operating for me a bit in the dark.
Yeah.
From my perspective, each initiative, whether that's AI initiative, data analytics initiative, it should have an ROI attached, right? So that's the first part to address that. And the second one is, yes, all of our initiatives had the ROI, and we were always kind of trying to anticipate, so what is going to be the impact of a certain initiative? And then we were choosing which one should be prioritized over another. It's not always perfect, but you should have some initial ideas of how to calculate it, right? And you can look at it in many different ways. At the cost saves, you can try to identify the average revenue that is coming for a particular segment of the client. So if you, for example, try to identify new leads in the same segment, you can more or less be able to say what's the customer lifetime value, CLV, what is going to be the outcome of such an engagement. So yes, I would say that one of the critical points, and this is also something that I'm recommending to my clients now, is to focus on the kind of quick wins, low-hanging fruits, and those initiatives that are measurable, where you can say, this is going to bring you X, Y, and Z revenue on the back of it.
So in practice, it means, obviously, low-hanging fruits, plus whenever you want to build a product, you start with like a POC, and you always measure the impact. And if you see it doesn't impact anything, you drop, right?
Absolutely, Margot. So I guess the POC and MVPs are obviously, when you're talking about the technological implementations, that's where we start. We try to anticipate everything in the beginning with the business plan, with the roadmap, with the project plan, FTE utilization, etc. So it gives you the idea of the investment of the cost. Yeah. And on the back of it, you should have already an anticipation of what are the potential markets, who are your investors, customers, do you have any leads in place, etc. So right now it's very commercially driven.
And did you, in your experience, maybe at HSBC, or did you hear maybe about some use cases that were actually that disappointed? Like you thought it was going to bring impact, but maybe it was too early for the consumer, maybe, or for the customer. Maybe the market was not ready, or just it wasn't showing really the impact. So you had to actually drop it.
I mean, there are many of those examples, right? If you search on the internet, and then you'll immediately get a number of failed initiatives. But I don't think that's exactly the fault of AI. I think it's more about how you approach those things, right? So if you focus on the kind of certain approach which has steps like, let's do the workshop, then let's try to identify what are the use cases, let's then prioritize them based on, for example, must-have, so must-have, should-have, etc. Then try to estimate ROI. If we can do it, then this certain use case shouldn't go into production. And then you end up with, 1 to 5 of those use cases that are really achievable. So yes, there are a number of use cases, like I mentioned, based on the statistics of the initiatives that fail, but also it's because companies try to resolve those issues by themselves. And not all the companies are currently equipped with the knowledge, the skill set, and the right approach. So what I would say is try to shop around, look for the right companies that can help you. I'm not talking about my own company. Obviously, I'm happy to support, but there are plenty of other companies in the market, and try to get their expertise to help you build those cases, right? So I think it's about trying to bring some fresh blood, some experts, people who have done that in practice in the past, who can help you deliver. Yeah,
I think it's a very good. It's good to mention that surround yourself with the right teams and the right external partners, so you actually don't lose time and money, or you lose less time and money, because you get straight to the point. Very interesting. If we go back to banking specifically, it's obviously a very regulated industry. So did you see compliance and regulation as like a blocking point when setting up some AI or data use cases, or was it even an opportunity? Because it's a bit, we see that there are a lot of compliance and regulation questions with AI, but like in the banking industry specifically, can it block basically?
So I think all the banks, because they are regulated, the compliance, risk, and governance are an essential part of the business, and they shouldn't be ignored. However, they should also not dominate the narrative and the use cases and how you're using AI or data and analytics in your business. Like I mentioned, banks are eventually the institutions, financial institutions, right? So one of their targets is not only to protect our assets, but also to generate more revenue.
Yeah, of course.
Which means they have to be able to run their businesses. So what I would say, there needs to be a healthy balance between the two. And obviously, if there is over-regulation in certain markets, like you can see that in Europe right now, this is going to hinder the growth and the impact of AI it has on Europe. And Europe is slowly noticing that. But some progressive regions, like the Middle East, is great. They're already nominating chief AI officers for the last couple of years in the institutions and companies. AI is going to be a mandatory subject at schools from next year. I think that gives you a certain confidence about what you can do with AI, right? So instead of over-regulating it, and there have to be certain ethical or compliance ramifications, but instead of hindering the progress, you should kind of try to test an experiment where it takes you, and obviously try to limit it where it's becoming wrong for the society, or it's becoming it's being used in a wrong way.
Yeah, because we were talking about fraud detection earlier, and for example, for this type of use case, obviously it's a use case about regulation, but you work with a lot of sensitive data, etc. So there is a bit of risk in building product with this data. So in this case, for example, like I don't know if it was complicated for you to set up, etc. But I believe you have to be between, okay, I need to be super careful because of the compliance and the usage of this data. Plus, but I want to do something that is really like changing the game, like, and putting AI in it. So how do you balance both?
So obviously we had to be careful, and this is where the compliance aspects have to be well embedded in such models. And these were key priority, especially in this use case. But I guess this is one of the many use cases that you can use the generative AI for. Let's take coding. I think this is a better example where banks were able to reap a lot of benefits, not only banks, but many companies, right? You can now use ChatGPT or GitHub to generate thousands of lines of code in a matter of minutes, right? Something that used to take a lot of resource and time and testing before. And now you can immediately release it into production using tools like Replit, which generates the code. I even do it in our corporate trainings, right, for our clients, where we do the similar exercise. So we demystify how much time it used to take to do the coding and programming. And right now it's something that everyone having a laptop can do without having the knowledge. Obviously, then you're not an expert, right? You're not a Python programmer immediately, but it shows you the potential where you can focus on the creative aspect of generating the code rather than coding itself, right? So you don't have to spend hours of code on coding, but you can think about what is your code going to do as an end result. How is it going to impact the client? How is it going to bring value to your frontline, etc.?
Yeah, very interesting. And you know pretty well, I guess, so two things: the landscape here in banking. So I believe, I mean, obviously you've been working for a while at HSBC, plus you probably know a lot of fintechs as well. The challenge that, and we talk a lot about this in this podcast, because I have a lot of people coming from a big corporation. And sometimes they have this challenge of saying, okay, I have huge budgets, but it's a company that is not that flexible, or it's a company that doesn't have the agility of like smaller companies, a lot of legacy systems, etc. In your industry, or in what you know from, not specifically HSBC, but like big legacy bank, is it going to be a challenge for them to adapt against, like, or not even against, but like on the market where you have AI-driven fintechs that actually are a bit trying to kill the game? Is it an issue for them? Is it heavy for them to set up some AI use cases, to become agile, etc., with all the legacy and tech that they have?
Yes, but it's a good challenge, I would say, right? Because it triggers something which is positive for the general audience, for us as customers.
Yeah.
So this is more of the kind of disruption that is happening. And I believe that there is also space where fintechs and the large banks can work together. And we can already see that happening. And also you can see that a lot of the traditional banks are releasing their digital versions, and like Mashreq Neo, right?
Yeah.
You have also the example of the disruptor banks like Wio in the UAE, which is doing fantastic work, right? And it's integrated with a number of solutions. So yes, I think it's a challenge for the traditional banks who are not as easy to navigate and change. But I guess it's pushing the whole sector in the right direction.
Yeah.
On the other hand, those smaller and digital banks can't really offer what the traditional banks are offering, right? They don't have the reach. They don't have the infrastructure standing behind it. They don't have the brand. They don't have the safety and cybersecurity measures. So I think for those number of reasons, and I don't know, the trade outreach, the global presence, you can't really rely only on those digital banks, at least not yet.
Yeah.
Because then you would still revert to a traditional bank if you want to operate at a global scale, and if you need certain products that only big banks can deliver.
Yeah. So it's a good change to have, because it's pushing them to evolve and to be more agile, and at the same time the legacy part can be a good thing as well. So okay, very interesting. You just mentioned some companies actually have chief AI officer. It's interesting for me because you used to be a CDAO, and there are a lot here on the market. And I was wondering, how do you think this role is evolving with AI? The reason why I'm asking the question is AI, these 10 the last 10 years, you and me here on the market, we saw it was mainly, AI and data, it was mainly a tech topic. So usually the CEO, I'm really simplifying, but was basically giving the ownership to hopefully a CDO, if not someone else, but either to the IT team or to the data team or a tech team or something like this. Now, with Gen AI is everywhere in the business. So is it still useful? Is it going to be under the CDIO? Is it still useful to keep this role? Like, is this role evolving and still getting the ownership on this? Or is it completely changing the way we should organize the ownership of these topics?
So I think, and many CDOs may disagree with me on that.
Yeah,
maybe.
It's just.
But I guess it doesn't automatically take you from being a CDO, CDAO to become a chief AI officer, right? Because this is a completely different approach.
And profile.
And it's supposed to be very business driven, I think.
Yes.
Right. So for me, that it requires certain combination of business skills plus the typical standard data skills. I think the role of the CDO will remain for the foreseeable future. However, it will be then slowly outpaced and automated by some of the existing solutions, which will make the data governance, compliance much easier and cheaper to do. I think there is a right inclination to hire chief AI officers, dedicated people, but I don't think that there are many in the market right now.
Yeah.
Because Gen AI is still relatively fresh.
Yeah, of course.
And not everyone, even who claims that they're at the same level, is properly equipped to do those things, right? So it's going to take a bit of testing, and some of the probably more kind of inexperienced profiles might erode the market.
Yeah.
But we'll get to the same place, the Gantt kind of, or the kind of the Gantt chart of the productivity. We'll get to the plateau of productivity, right, at some stage. Right now we're at the disruption stage, which is very volatile, and it will go up and down.
So it's very interesting because many companies here in the region, they actually don't have CDOs. I mean, it's what I'm going to say is like there was a bit of a lack of maturity in data in general. So like in Europe, a CDO was not even a question anymore. Everyone had CDOs. But here it took a bit of time. So CDOs really went like, I saw a growth in this market, let's say 5 years ago probably. So you still have a lot of companies here that are not equipped on data. But now Gen AI is here, and they're like, should they hire still a CDO who's going to be like more, a sort of bridge between IT and the business on tech topics, plus a chief AI officer, or should you dive directly into AI? But most of the company may not be AI ready. That's a big challenge already for today for these corporations.
I think you've been in consultancy before, so I'll give you the favorite
consultant answer.
Response. Yes, it depends.
Yeah, it depends.
And the reason why it depends on the size and the culture and the awareness and the current state of your data, right? If it's of relatively good quality, then yes, I think you can jump through the stage and start deploying on Gen AI. But the right data quality is one of the essential fundamentals of building the proper AI adoption in your company, right? So if this is at 50% or less, you probably shouldn't go anywhere near AI because it will not bring the benefits, right? Or you can start, but obviously you will not get the results that you would be expecting.
Yeah.
So for a number of companies, this could be a good solution to kind of jump straight into Gen AI. I think they're going to make a leap. if they use the Gen AI, because there is a
Yes.
lot of hype in the market,
Yeah.
but not many companies have actually started adopting it. So that's another thing.
Yeah, that's very true. Yeah, and I think we will talk about it in another episode, by the way, about this Gen AI adoption. Okay, very interesting, because I think organizations, I mean, what I see is people are rushing into AI, but most of them are actually not ready, and they should actually start by putting the data basics in place before actually setting up AI. Yeah, okay.
Yes, I think there are a few components before when you have legacy infrastructure, that's not going to help. When you have poor data quality, when there is no cultural awareness of what's coming, when there is no proper AI formalized training, and by the way, there is only 5 to 10% of formalized AI training. So I think you have to kind of manage a couple of components before you can successfully deliver on the AI use case.
Going back to banking, is there any innovation related to AI that is really exciting you for the future?
Great question. I think there are two. One of them is on the hyper-personalization side, where I expect that a lot of the services that the banks offer today will be very tailored to what we actually need. So they'll be focused on the customer segmentation, on customer experience, on different channel to reach us. And if you compare it, for instance, with Netflix recommendations, like when you go into Netflix, it's already telling you what you're probably like. So I would like the banking apps to be able to tell me that before I even open the app. So when I open the app, it should already tell me, oh, you're here to make a transfer because you do it every month, right? Or you're here to, I don't know, check on something. And if it's able to anticipate my needs, then I think that's the winning point. And the second one is on the cybersecurity side because of the quantum involvement. So you can see that our banking will become more secure in the near future.
Yeah, that's going to be a bit more long-term than the first one. And the first one is actually very interesting. Do you know any bank? You don't have to give names, but is this something that you've seen already being put in place, or you think it's still a bit early?
I mean, I probably wouldn't say that many banks are successful yet with those, but it's a journey like we had with chatbots, right? If you think of chatbots a couple of years back, I don't know, they didn't actually deliver on what they promised, right? But now that we have ChatGPT and the LLM and the chatbots based on LLM, I think all banks will very quickly in the next 1 or 2 years start delivering those services. So even from that perspective, I think the LLMs will be able to support this process quite a lot. Now, then everything will go down to what internal data they have and how they use it and whether they are able to build the profiles for hyper-personalization.
Yeah.
So again, this is going to be a journey. You have some of the banks which are slightly ahead, and Wio could be one of those examples.
Yeah.
But it will again take some time to train and learn those habits. So I'm expecting the first results to be there between 2 to 5 years.
And do you think there could be any, how can I say, not bad reaction, but like that customers could be a bit scared as well if it goes too quickly on personalization?
Great question. I think yes. Like
because it's going fast.
Yes, especially people who are not used to digital banking that much could be a bit overwhelmed with the adoption. So I think again, this is a matter of raising awareness and AI becoming the inherent part of our lives. So maybe it's a matter of training, maybe it's a matter of getting customers used to. But the same way we used to have internet back in the 2000s and people were not familiar with it and there were trainings on internet, I think it will become again such a natural thing for us to do in the next couple of years that we'll not imagine what was before we started using it.
Yeah, that's a good thing. Any last takeaway you wanted to share with us on either AI in banking in general or the evolution of the roles that you've been having in the past? Anything you want to close the discussion with?
So I think my only advice would be don't try to solve the problems yourselves. Try to engage the professionals. Try to speak with the experts. And then I guess if you get the external expertise, if you try to build the AI use cases that are based on commercial aspects and ROI, and you tackle some of the basics like fundamentals of data quality and legacy infrastructure, then everything is going to be fine. Yeah. We're all going to adopt it eventually. Yeah. It's just a matter of time.
And it's okay to be lost right now because it's everywhere. You need to do it, but do it properly. Correct. Start with the need, as you were saying. And I love the get surrounded by the right partners. I think it's very important. Thank you so much for your time, Bart.
Pleasure is mine. Thank you, Margot, for having me here.